In 1977, George Lucas introduced us to a galaxy far, far away, a universe filled with adventure, mysticism, and a profound sense of wonder. For decades, Star Wars was more than just a film series. It was a cultural milestone, a story that transcended generations and redefined what cinema could achieve. But today, the franchise is unrecognizable. What began as a groundbreaking saga of creativity and innovation has become a corporate product, churned out with little regard for its original spirit. Since Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2012, Star Wars has lost its soul, diluted by formulaic storytelling, overexposure, and a lack of a coherent vision. This is not a lament rooted purely in nostalgia. It is an analysis of how a franchise built on imagination and risk-taking has been reduced to safe, market-tested mediocrity. Today, we'll explore how George Lucas's independent vision birthed a cultural phenomenon, and how Disney has steered the franchise astray, and whether it's already too late to save Star Wars. The origins of Star Wars, George Lucas's vision. To truly understand how Star Wars has lost its way, we need to revisit its origins and the man who started it all, George Lucas. In the early 1970s, Lucas was a young filmmaker with a passion for storytelling and a desire to push the boundaries of cinema. After his success with American Graffiti, Lucas turned his attention to a bold new project, Star Wars, a space opera inspired by his love of mythology. But Star Wars was more than just a tribute to George Lucas's influences. It was a synthesis of universal storytelling archetypes brought to life through groundbreaking special effects and unprecedented attention to world building. Lucas wasn't just creating a movie, he was crafting an entire galaxy filled with rich lore, complex characters, and timeless themes of hope, redemption, and the internal struggle between good and evil. What made Lucas's approach unique was his commitment to independence. When studios such as Fox doubted his vision for Star Wars, Lucas took a risk, forming his own production company and retaining the rights to his intellectual property. This independence allowed for him to innovate without interferences, leading to one of the most influential film trilogies in history. But Lucas wasn't just a visionary storyteller, he was also a technological pioneer. Through his company at Industrial Light and Magic, he revolutionized special effects, setting new standards for the film industry. This spirit of innovation defined Star Wars, elevating it beyond mere entertainment to a cultural phenomenon. The sale to Disney, a turning point. In 2012, Lucas made a decision that would change the course of Star Wars forever. He sold Lucasfilm to Disney for $4 billion. At the time, the sale was presented as a necessary step to ensure the future of the franchise. Disney, with its vast resources, promised to bring Star Wars to a new generation of fans. However, this decision marked the end of Lucas's creative control. Although he provided Disney with outlines for a sequel trilogy, stories that explored the deeper mysteries of the Force, and introduced bold new concepts, these ideas were ultimately discarded. Disney executives decided to chart their own course, one that prioritized commercial appeal over artistic integrity. In later interviews, Lucas expressed disappointment with the direction Disney took, describing it as a betrayal of his vision. This was the one moment where Star Wars began to drift away from its roots, becoming less about storytelling and more about corporate branding. The Disney era. Formula over innovation. Disney's stewardship of Star Wars began with a bang. The Force Awakens was a massive box office success, reintroducing the galaxy to a new generation. But beneath its polished surface, it was clear that the film was playing it safe, with its recycled plot lines and heavy reliance on nostalgia. The Force Awakens was a less new chapter and a remake of The New Hope. Then came The Last Jedi, a polarizing film that divided fans. Director Rian Johnson attempted to subvert expectations, challenging traditional Star Wars tropes. While some praised its boldness, others criticized it for disregarding established lore and alienating longtime fans. Finally, The Rise of Skywalker attempted to reconcile these divisions. but the result was a rushed, incoherent finale that failed to satisfy anyone. The sequel trilogy as a whole lacked the coherence and depth of vision that George Lucas has, feeling more like a series of disconnected products than a unified story. The problem wasn't just the execution, it was the philosophy behind it. Disney treated Star Wars like a Marvel property, churning out content on a tight schedule with little regard for long-term storytelling. But Star Wars isn't just another franchise. It's a cultural mythos, a space where bold ideas and inventions should thrive. The dilution of the Star Wars brand. Under Disney, Star Wars has become oversaturated. In the years following the sequel trilogy, we've seen a barrage of spin-offs, including Rogue One, Solo, and a slew of Disney Plus series, such as The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, The Obi-Wan Kenobi Show. While some of these projects have found success, The Mandalorian particularly has been well received, the first season and the second. Others have felt like shallow attempts to cash in on nostalgia. Solo, for an example, was widely criticized as unnecessary, offering little to the franchise beyond an origin story that nobody even asked for. This constant stream of content has diminished the magic of Star Wars, which was once an event, a saga that fans eagerly awaited, has become just another entry in an endless conveyor belt of media. The result is a diluted brand, one that no longer feels special. What's missing? The legacy of George Lucas. The heart of this issue lies in the absence of George Lucas's vision. Lucas wasn't afraid to take risks, to innovate, and to challenge his audience. His plans for the sequels would have explored uncharted territory, delving into the origins of the Force and introducing complex new ideas. Disney, by contrast, has relied on formulaic storytelling, rehashing old ideas, rather than pushing the franchise forward. This approach has not only failed to capture the spirit of Star Wars, but has also alienated a significant portion of the fan base. Is Star Wars too far gone? So, is there hope for Star Wars? It's hard to say. The longer the franchise remains under the control of executives who prioritize profit over creativity, the harder it will to reclaim its former glory. What Star Wars needs is a return to its roots, not in the form of more nostalgia-driven spin-offs, but in the spirit of innovation and risk-taking that defined George Lucas's original vision. Until then, Star Wars will remain adrift, a shadow of its former self. Conclusion. In the end, Star Wars is more than just a franchise. It's a cultural touchstone, a story about hope, resilience, and the power of imagination. But as fans, we must ask ourselves, how much longer can we hope for a brighter future for this beloved saga? If Star Wars is to find its way back, it will require visionaries who understand its essence, creators willing to take risks and to tell stories that inspire. Until then, we are left with a galaxy far, far away from the one that George Lucas dreamed of.